everyone. So we're going to take off from the last place that we were at. So I'm just going to explain some things to you. So we have Hello World here. It's a Java file. It's in a class called Hello World with a capital H. You can hover over things like this and it will show you some of the comments that were already up here. These are standard comments that are starred. You can also have other comments with double dashes like this, and this is a comment. Now today we're just going to have a look at inserting a variable. So I like to go with D.A.U. It's my own acronym that I made up. Define, assign, and use. So firstly, you always define a variable, you always have to assign it, and you always have to use it, and that's how it gets put into the memory in the computer. So if you picture something like a box, and you have different types of things that go into the box, but the size of the box can vary, and this has to do with the type of the box you have. So if you go to the post office, or if you go to a shop or anything and you buy an actual physical box, they're different sizes. So these different sizes are also to do with different types of memory storage that we have in a computer. So let's say, for instance, you have an int type, so an integer, so that would be like a whole number, so that can only store a certain amount of digits. And these eventually are converted down in the lower level of the computer to ones and zeros, and that becomes binary, and that's how your computer works. So everything to do with ones and zeros is turning on something and turning off something. It's to do with true or false, and these are principles that we look at for logic gates and things like that later on, to do with more electronic engineering and fundamentals of that kind of thing. But for the moment, we're just going to have a look at declaring a variable. So we can declare an int, which is kind of the easiest, I suppose, or we can also split this statement into a few different lines. That's also a really important thing to do, because then you know how to do like multiple things with it. So when you declare an int, there are certain things that you have to add. So there are certain already packaged things that other people have made that we can just use. So if you picture going into a library, you don't have to learn the encyclopedia. You can just look up different things and take from it. You can look up certain pieces of information and pull from it and use it. And that's what we're going to do today. So we're going to first split this statement in two. If I just take this and take what I had written here. Now, always when I am programming, anyway, it's a matter of preference, but when I am programming, I like to run it one piece at a time. So you can see here in the console, it says Hello World Ali, and that's in two different lines. Now, to declare a variable, then we're going to use the addition integer for adding integers here for chapter 2 of the D.A.U book, or Untitled as some people like to call it. It's on page 45 of the book, so I'm going to go through it. It's generally you'd split it into a different class or program, but we're just going to build on this one for now. So I'm going to import the scanner. Usually all of the imports, the structure of a program is really important. Usually all of the things that we use are up here already. So if we look here, it says is the import java.util.scanner is never used, and then it gives you 4 different options. So it tells you almost straight away you're not using it, you have to use it. So like I said at the beginning, D.A.U, it's define, assign, and use. That's how I generally teach programming, and that's worked in the past. So you always have to define it, assign it, and use it, and that goes for importing something. You always have to use it, otherwise it gets underlined, and you can see here that it's going to either be removed or like it will be redundant in your program. It will just take up space, so it's not very efficient. So now we're going to you can call it anything you like, but I'm going to call it input, or you can call it scan, or you can put in IO if you want for input. But for now, we're just going to say input new. New is a keyword, so you can see that it's highlighted here. It's in a different color. It's in wine in this one. So when you use something that's already utilized within the program in the background, it will already be a different color, and that's called a reserved keyword. So it's already, you can't use new in another context. You have to use new in this particular way, because it's creating a new object, which we'll come to later. So create a scanner to obtain input from the command window. So we're going to go system.in. So it tells you already the standard input stream. This stream is already open and ready to supply input data. Typically, this stream corresponds to keyboard input or another input source specified by the host, environment, or user. Now, what you can do, which is really cool, is that you can actually add in add-ons into Eclipse or in other programs that I've used previously, and you can use different input devices based on other people's programming that they have already used. So for instance, you can use gesture or some other device to input it. So you can hook up maybe a Wii remote to a laptop, or a PlayStation 3 Move to a laptop directly using Bluetooth, and then you can import some of this stuff, but that's a little bit later down the road. For now, we're just going to use the input in the window. Always finish your statements with a semicolon. I'm going to ask the user for something, so I'm going to say system out.print. Enter the first integer. Now, when you do this, what's happening? It's just going to print out, enter the first input. It's not going to store it. It's not going to keep it anywhere. You need to read the number from the user, and to do that, we need to put it in a box. So we're going to put it in the input box. And for now, we're just going to call it number 1 equals input.next int. Now, these are all things that come naturally later on when you take a look. And then we're just going to, for now, we're just going to output. And you can see this is called the parameters, or the arguments that are put into this method, called printf, or function, a lot of people call it, but in other programming languages it's called function, and in others it's called method. In this instance, we're going to use this string format, and it's a convenience method to write a formatted string to this output stream using the specified format string and arguments. This is just going to show what I just put in, what the user input. Okay, now for an integer, these are things that you just learn off. So percentage D generally represents integer, percentage N is for new line. We're just going to go with this one, and then you put in number 1 here to show what it is. And I'm going to run this now as is. Enter your first, so I'm going to say 12. What is user input? 12. And that is the first step in creating an integer, creating a scanner object. We've actually done a lot. It's pretty much all of chapter 2, but we'll go into more detail in the next video. And yeah, so that's it for the moment. Thanks for joining, and I Hope you like my video, and please subscribe to the channel. I'll post up more as I'm going along. This is called the Hello World project. I'll kind of add in the Adding Integers project later on and go through the different details. As I'm going through, we'll have to explain different things along the way. For now, we're just going to learn as we go. So thank you for joining.